The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalm 34:18. Today, the world mourns the loss of a shepherd. On the morning of April the 21st, 2025, Easter Monday, Pope Francis, the 266th Pontiff of the Roman Catholic Church, passed into eternity at the age of 88. The news hit not only the 1.3 billion Catholics worldwide, but also millions of Christians from all denominations. It struck the hearts of those who admired a man not just for his office, but for his witness, for his compassion, for his Christ-likeness. He was not just a pope, he was a father to the broken, a friend to the outcast, a voice for the voiceless, a life poured out. Born Jorge Mario Bergoglio in Buenos Aires, Argentina, he became the first pope from Latin America, the first Jesuit pope, and the first non-European pope in more than 1,200 years. But titles were never what he lived for. He once said, "We must always walk in the presence of the Lord, in the light of the Lord, always trying to live in an irreproachable way." That's who he was, a man walking in the light, not perfectly, but humbly. Pope Francis chose to live not in the grandeur of the papal apartments, but in the modest guest house of the Vatican, Casa Santa Marta. His heart was with the poor, the suffering, and the marginalized. He washed the feet of prisoners and immigrants. He visited the sick and the dying. He embraced the disabled. And perhaps most importantly, he reminded the world that Jesus sees the unseen. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Matthew 5:5. In a world obsessed with power, Pope Francis knelt low, a voice in the wilderness. He was not afraid to speak truth, not just to the world, but to the church itself. In a time when scandals rocked the faith of millions, he faced them head-on with sorrow and resolve. He called out hypocrisy. He demanded accountability. But he also called us not to lose heart. The church is not a toll house. It is the house of the Father, where there is a place for everyone with all their problems. He reminded us that faith is not a fortress, but a field hospital. When nations closed their borders, he opened his arms to refugees. When the world turned cold, he preached mercy. When the poor were forgotten, he cried out, "This economy kills." He championed environmental stewardship through Laudato Si, urging us to care for creation, not out of politics, but out of reverence for God's handiwork. The earth is the Lord's, and everything in it. Psalm 24:1. He spoke not to impress, but to awaken, not to condemn, but to call, a heart for the broken. Pope Francis had a unique tenderness for those who carried shame, sin, or sorrow. He knew that many people had left the church not because they stopped believing in God, but because they believed God had stopped loving them. He shattered that lie. He said, "God never tires of forgiving us. We are the ones who tire of seeking His mercy." It was not a theological slogan. It was a lifeline. To the addict, the divorced, the sinner, the doubter, he said, "Come home." He lived out Jesus' parable of the prodigal son, not just as a story, but as a lifestyle. He taught us to look for Jesus not in stained glass alone, but in the tears of the suffering. He urged pastors and priests to smell like the sheep, to be with the people, not above them. In his own walk, Pope Francis often battled illness, fatigue, and the weight of criticism, but he pressed on. "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith." 2 Timothy 4:7. The silence of loss, the echo of legacy. And now he is gone. The chair of Peter sits empty, but the fragrance of his life still lingers. We weep, but not as those who have no hope. We mourn, but we remember what he showed us, that humility is not weakness, that mercy is not compromise, that the gospel is not just to be preached, but lived. His final years were marked by physical decline, but spiritual clarity. He reminded us, over and over again, of the centrality of Jesus. Not religion for its own sake, not institutions, but Christ alone. He never wanted to be idolized. He wanted to point to the one who saves. He must increase, but I must decrease. John 3:30. Now, he rests in the arms of the shepherd he served. A call to carry the light. As we remember Pope Francis, let us not merely speak of his life. Let us respond to it. Let us feed the hungry, visit the prisoner, welcome the stranger, stand with the forgotten, speak for the unborn, love our enemies, and most of all, return to Jesus. He would not want a grand monument. He would want a changed heart. And so let us live the words he gave us. A little bit of mercy makes the world less cold and more just. Let us be that little bit of mercy. Well done, good and faithful servant. Matthew 25:23. Rest in peace, Pope Francis. You have run your race. You have loved well. You have pointed us to Jesus.